What if I told you that a mother's heart can be broken, but her love can never be killed? In 1855, on a plantation in Kentucky, there lived a woman named Hattie. Her own child was taken from her arms and sold, but she never stopped loving. And today, in 2025, in New Orleans, there's a woman named Gloria. She also lost her child, but she never stopped loving either. Two women, two different times, one unbreakable heart. This story isn't just about the past. This story is about the world we're living in right now. It was a hot and humid summer morning. In Kentucky, before the sun had even risen, life had already begun in the slave quarters of the plantation. Hattie sat in front of her small wooden cabin, hands resting on her knees, eyes distant and lost in thought. Her hands were calloused. Her face was tired, but there was still something in her eyes. Maybe hope, maybe love, or maybe just the instinct to survive. Hattie was 32 years old, but she looked closer to 45. Slavery aged people quickly. In the mornings, she worked in the fields. In the afternoons, she cleaned in the master's house. And in the evenings, she cared for the children of other enslaved people. She prepared food for them, wrapped their wounded knees, wiped their foreheads with warm cloths, combed their hair, and sang them lullabies. The children called her Mother Hattie. But Hattie no longer had a child of her own. 4 years ago, her little son Caleb had been born. The first day Hattie held him in her arms. She thought nothing in the world could touch her, but she was wrong. When Caleb was only 3 years old, her master, Master Whitaker, made a deal with a trader. The trader was looking for strong and healthy children. Caleb looked strong, and that became his fate. That morning when Hattie woke up, Caleb wasn't beside her. She ran outside and saw a wagon. In the back of the wagon, little Caleb sat with other children, all chained together. His eyes were filled with fear. Mama, Caleb had screamed. Hattie ran. She ran with all her strength. But the plantation overseers grabbed her. They held her arms, her hands. She screamed, "Give me back my son! Give me back my son!" But the wagon rolled away. Caleb's voice faded slowly into the distance. That day, Hattie lost something. But at the same time, she gained something too. The determination to be a mother to other children. 4 years had passed. Every evening, Hattie came to the slave quarters and distributed food to the children. Breadcrumbs she secretly took from the master's kitchen, a bit of cornmeal mush, sometimes a piece of meat. Whatever she could find, she gave to them. When the children saw Hattie, they would run to her. "Mother Hattie, Mother Hattie," they would shout. Hattie would take them in her arms one by one, kiss their faces, stroke their hair, and tell them little stories. One evening, a little girl named Essie came to Hattie. Essie was 7 years old. She had been living alone since her mother died. Her hands were trembling. Her eyes were filled with fear. "Mother Hattie," Essie said quietly, "I'm scared." Hattie pulled Essie into her lap. "Why are you scared, sweetheart?" "Master beat me yesterday. I accidentally broke a plate. But I didn't mean to. Will he beat me again?" Hattie's heart tightened. She looked at Essie's face. There were bruises on the child's cheeks. "No, sweetheart," Hattie said softly. "I won't let him beat you anymore. I promise you that." But Hattie knew she might not be able to keep that promise, because she was a slave herself. She had no power. She had no rights. But still, she wanted to give the child hope, because hope was the only thing they had. Days passed. Hattie continued working in Master Whitaker's house. But one day, something happened. Master Whitaker said to Hattie, "Hattie, I saw you distributing food to the children in the slave quarters. What nerve is this?" Hattie's heart began to race, but she tried to keep her voice calm. "Master, they're hungry. I'm just helping." "Helping?" Master Whitaker laughed. "You are my property, Hattie. You can't do anything without my permission. If I catch you giving food to those children again, I'll whip you. Do you understand?" Hattie bowed her head. "Yes, master." But inside, she said something else. "But I will give them food again. Because they are my children. That night, Hattie distributed food to the children. Again, secretly, silently. But this time, she was more careful. Little Essie came to Hattie. "Mother Hattie, Master could punish you. Why are you still bringing us food?" Hattie looked at Essie's face. Tears were in her eyes. But she smiled. "Because you are my daughter, Essie, and a mother never abandons her child." Essie hugged Hattie, and that night, in the quarters, a small light of hope shone. The weeks that followed were hard. Master Whitaker watched Hattie closely now. He suspected she was still helping the children, but he couldn't catch her in the act. Hattie became more strategic. She would wait until late at night when the overseers were drunk or asleep. She would sneak into the quarters with whatever scraps she could gather. Sometimes it was just a crust of bread. Sometimes it was a small piece of salt pork. But it was something. The children began to understand that they had to be quiet. They learned to eat quickly and hide any evidence. They learned that Mother Hattie was risking her life for them. One night, as Hattie was leaving the quarters, she heard footsteps behind her. Her heart stopped. She turned slowly and saw one of the older enslaved men, a man named Silas. "Hattie, what you doing is dangerous," Silas whispered. "Master Whitaker gonna catch you one day." "I know," Hattie replied. "But I can't stop. These children need me." Silas shook his head. "You got a good heart, Hattie, but a good heart can get you killed in this place." "Then I'll die with a good heart," Hattie said firmly. Silas looked at her for a long moment, then nodded slowly. "You remind me of my mama. She was like you, always giving, always caring. They sold her away when I was 10. I ain't never seen her again." Hattie reached out and touched Silas's arm. "I'm sorry." "Don't be sorry," Silas said. "Just be careful." But being careful wasn't always enough. One evening, Master Whitaker returned home earlier than expected. He had been drinking at a neighbor's plantation and was in a foul mood. As he walked past the slave quarters, he heard voices, children's voices, and then he heard another voice. A woman's voice. Hattie's voice. He walked quietly to the door of the quarters and peered inside. There was Hattie, sitting on the ground, surrounded by children. She was handing out pieces of cornbread and telling them a story. And then Master Whitaker burst through the door. "What is this?" he roared. The children scattered immediately, hiding behind barrels and under blankets. Hattie stood up slowly, her heart pounding. "Master, I can explain." "Explain." Master Whitaker's face was red with rage. "I told you not to feed these children without my permission. You defied me." "Master, they were starving." "I don't care." Master Whitaker grabbed Hattie by the arm and dragged her outside. "You think you can disobey me? You think you have rights?" He threw her to the ground. Hattie hit the dirt hard, pain shooting through her shoulder. She tried to get up, but Master Whitaker kicked her back down. The children watched from the doorway, their eyes wide with terror. "You're gonna learn your lesson tonight," Master Whitaker said coldly. He called for his overseer. "Bring me the whip." Hattie was tied to a post in the center of the plantation yard. Her wrists were bound above her head. Her back was exposed. Master Whitaker stood behind her with a leather whip in his hand. 10 lashes, he announced. "Maybe that'll teach you some obedience." The first strike came down hard. Hattie gasped, but didn't scream. She bit her lip and closed her eyes. The second strike. The third. The fourth. By the fifth strike, blood was running down her back. By the seventh, her vision was blurring. By the 10th, she could barely stand. When it was over, Master Whitaker untied her and let her drop to the ground. "Let that be a lesson to all of you," he said loudly, looking at the other enslaved people who had gathered. "Disobedience will not be tolerated." He walked away, leaving Hattie bleeding in the dirt. Silas and 2 other women came to help Hattie. They carried her back to her cabin and laid her on her bed. They washed her wounds with water and wrapped her back in torn strips of cloth. Hattie drifted in and out of consciousness. In her fevered dreams, she saw Caleb. She saw his little face his bright eyes. She heard his voice calling for her. "Mama, don't leave me." "I won't, baby," Hattie whispered in her sleep. "I won't ever leave you." It took Hattie 3 days to recover enough to stand. Her back was still raw and painful, but she forced herself to get up. She had work to do. The children needed her. On the 4th day, she returned to the fields. The other enslaved people looked at her with a mixture of admiration and pity. They knew what she had done. They knew what she had risked. That evening, Hattie went back to the quarters. She didn't have any food this time, but she went anyway. The children saw her and came running. "Mother Hattie." Hattie knelt down and hugged them. "I'm sorry I don't have food tonight," she said softly, "but I have something else." "What?" Essie asked. Hattie smiled. "Hope. I have hope. And as long as we have hope, we can survive anything." The children nodded, not fully understanding, but trusting her completely. And that night, Hattie told them a story. A story about a faraway land where people were free, where children could play without fear, where mothers could keep their babies, where the sun always shone, and the fields were full of flowers. It was a dream, a beautiful, impossible dream, but it was enough to keep them going. Years passed. Hattie continued to care for the children of the plantation. She was whipped 2 more times for defying Master Whitaker, but she never stopped. And then, in 1863, something incredible happened. News reached the plantation that President Lincoln had signed the Emancipation Proclamation. The enslaved people were to be freed. At first, no one believed it. It sounded too good to be true, but slowly, the news was confirmed. They were free. Hattie stood in the middle of the plantation yard, tears streaming down her face. Free. After all these years, free. The children ran to her, hugging her, laughing, crying, "Mother Hattie, we're free, we're free." Hattie held them close. "Yes, babies, we're free." But even in that moment of joy, Hattie thought of Caleb. Where was he now? Was he still alive? Had he heard the news? She would never know, but she would never forget him. Now let's fast forward to 2025. New Orleans. Gloria stood in the kitchen of the community center, stirring a large pot of gumbo. The smell filled the room, rich and warm. Outside, the sun was setting, casting a golden glow over the city. Gloria was 54 years old. Her hair was gray, her hands were aged, but her face still held a warmth. There was pain in her eyes, but also hope. 20 years ago, Gloria had lost her 16-year-old son Marcus. He had been walking home from a friend's house when he was stopped by police. They claimed he matched the description of a suspect, but Marcus was innocent. He tried to explain, but before he could, he was shot. Gloria's world collapsed that day. But she didn't collapse because she knew there were many other mothers suffering just like her. And Gloria decided to turn her pain into purpose. She began volunteering at the community center, cooking meals for children who didn't have enough to eat. She became a mother to all of them. That evening, a little girl named Janelle came to Gloria. Janelle was 9 years old. Her mother was in prison. Her father was gone. She lived with her grandmother. "Miss Gloria," Janelle said quietly, "this gumbo is so good, thank you." Gloria stroked Janelle's head. "You're welcome, sweetheart. You can come here any time." Janelle hugged Gloria. And in that moment, Gloria remembered Marcus. "My son Gloria," whispered to herself, "you're not here anymore, but I will be a mother to these children in your name." One evening, as Gloria was cleaning up the kitchen, a young woman named Shanice approached her. Shanice was a social worker who often brought children to the center. "Miss Gloria," Shanice said, "I need to talk to you." Gloria looked up. "What is it, honey?" Shanice hesitated. "There's a little boy. His name is Elijah. He's 6 years old. His mother died of an overdose last week. He doesn't have any family. Child Services is trying to find him a foster home, but it's taking time. He's scared and alone." Gloria's heart ached. "Where is he now?" He's at a temporary shelter, but it's not a good place for a child. I was wondering if maybe you could help, just for a little while until we find him a permanent home." Gloria didn't hesitate. "Bring him to me." The next day, Shanice brought Elijah to the community center. He was a small boy with big brown eyes and a sad face. He didn't say much, he just held on to a worn stuffed bear. Gloria knelt down in front of him. "Hi, Elijah. My name is Gloria. You're gonna stay with me for a little while, okay?" Elijah looked at her silently. Then he nodded. Gloria reached out and took his hand. "Come on, sweetheart. Let's get you something to eat." Over the next few weeks, Elijah slowly began to open up. At first, he barely spoke, but Gloria was patient. She cooked his favorite foods, read him bedtime stories, and sang him lullabies. One night, as Gloria was tucking Elijah into bed, he looked up at her with his big brown eyes. "Miss Gloria," he said softly. "Are you my mama now?" Gloria's heart broke and healed at the same time. She stroked his forehead. "I'm not your mama, sweetheart, but I love you just like a mama would." Elijah smiled for the first time since his mother died. "Okay." And in that moment, Gloria felt something. A connection, a thread that stretched back through time, connecting her to Hattie and to all the mothers who had loved children that weren't their own. Months passed. Elijah thrived under Gloria's care. He started smiling more, talking more, laughing more. And then one day, Shanice came to the center with news. "Miss Gloria, we found a family for Elijah. A good family, they want to adopt him." Gloria felt a pang in her chest. She had grown to love Elijah like her own, but she knew this was best for him. "That's wonderful," Gloria said, forcing a smile. That evening, Gloria sat Elijah down. "Sweetheart, I have some news. You're gonna have a new family. A forever family." Elijah looked confused. "But what about you?" Gloria hugged him tight. "I'll always be here for you, Elijah, always. But you deserve a family who can give you everything, and I know you're gonna be so happy." Elijah cried. Gloria cried too. On the day Elijah left, Gloria stood at the door of the community center, waving goodbye as he drove away with his new family. Tears streamed down her face. But even through the tears, she smiled, because she knew she had done something good. She had been a mother to a child who needed one. And that night, as Gloria lay in bed, she thought about Hattie. She thought about all the mothers throughout history who had loved children that weren't their own, who had given everything, even when they had nothing left to give. Hattie's love lives on in Gloria's hands. Two women, two different times, but the same heart. Because a mother's love never dies. It lives on, through generations, through centuries, forever. I hope you enjoyed this story. If you did, please hit that like button, leave a comment sharing what touched your heart, and don't forget to subscribe to this channel for more powerful African American stories. What lesson did you take from Hattie and Gloria's journey? Drop your thoughts below. I'll be reading every single one. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next story.